Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening? Welcome to the reset. Tonight, I just want to welcome everyone to the third series in what we call the coronavirus pressing the reset button, part three, the worker bees. Last week, we had a group of entrepreneurs and sole proprietors on the show to give us their viewpoints on what's happening to them in the wake of this pandemic that we're going through here. And this week, I decided to get a couple of friends of mine who are both work work in different industries, but have both been affected by the pandemic that we're going through. Um, First off, I would like to introduce to you my friend Greg, my friend Janae. Say hi to the people.
Hey everyone.
All right,
Hello.
right. Starting off with Greg, why don't you introduce yourself fully to everyone and let us know what you do, who you work for, how's the pandemic been affecting you, and what's happening in your industry?
Yeah, I'm Greg McAleer, and I'm a flight attendant here based in Chicago for Southwest Airlines. And I've been in the airline industry for almost 30 years. I've been with Southwest 2.5. And I'm also an actor here in Chicago, member of the Screen Actors Guild, so work in TV and film.
All right.
But yeah, so this has affected me and my family quite a bit. This is reminiscent of 9/11.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine, man. Everyone I've talked to is going through that. Everyone is making adjustments, in their family lives. I know on my job, I see a lot of the dads home, doing a
Oh
lot
yeah, right.
of babysitting and walking the dogs and everything. So, yeah, I know it's an adjustment for you, man. You're not used to being there all the time like that.
Well, that's the thing. For crew members, airline crew members, this isn't that different from anything else. I mean, we're home for days. I
Okay.
work only an average of about 12 days a month.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Okay.
So, I'm home a lot. So, and my wife, she's a flight attendant also for another major airline, and um, so we're home quite a bit.
Okay. All right. All right, then, Greg. Well, thank you very much, my man. And Janae, introduce yourself to the people, please.
Hi, my name's Janae Blackwell. I work as a teacher. I've been a teacher for about 20 years, on and off. And right now, I'm working in an area. I live in Miami, Florida, and I work in an area that's really close to downtown. It's called Overtown, and it's historically the black side of town.
Mm.
Like when they had segregation, it was called Colored Town, and
Oh,
that's primarily where the people lived. And they have um, had a lot of things encroach upon them
okay.
within the last few years. Like the hospital community is there, and the highway was built over where they live, but they have, because like hospitals and homeless shelters are around there, they have a very large homeless community. A lot of my students are in and out of homelessness,
Right.
like living in shelters or living in some sort of transitional housing.
Wow.
um, so actually virtually teaching them uh, and able to get all of them online has been very interesting.
Mm.
um, it's been interesting being a parent at the same time and actually having to teach
Yeah.
and having direct parents in what to do.
Mm.
But we've we've pretty much been in the house, so
Gotcha.
it's interesting. It's like I get to work all day the same, but I don't have to really drive to get there.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right then. Well, thank you very much again, the two of you, for coming on the show today. I wanted to start today off with an article that I came across. This article actually is from NBCnews.com. And the name of the article is Coronavirus Testing Must Double or Triple Before U.S. Can Safely Reopen, experts say. Quote, we are an order of magnitude of excuse me, quote, we are an order of magnitude off right now from where we should be, said an expert in infectious diseases modeling who advised the Obama administration. Testing for the coronavirus would have to be at least double or triple from its current levels to allow for even a partial reopening of America's economy, public health experts say, but it is unclear how soon such an ambitious goal could be reached amid persistent shortages of testing supplies and a lack of coordination from the Trump administration. Without diagnostic testing on a massive scale, federal and state officials and private companies will lack a clear picture of who has been infected, who can safely return to work, how the virus is spreading, and when stay-at-home orders can be eased, public health experts say. We are an order of magnitude off right now from where we should be, said Dylan George, an expert in infectious diseases from the Obama administration. Testing is the perpetual problem here. President Donald Trump announced federal guidelines Thursday to ease stay-at-home orders that leave it up to the states to decide on timing. The president outlined a gradual process that will be based on benchmarks like declines in positive cases. Quote, we are not opening all at once, but one careful step at a time, Trump said. The percentage of U.S. population that has been tested for COVID-19, about 1%, remains far too small to consider going back to normal routines, said Dr. Dan Hanfling, who worked in the National Healthcare Preparedness Program during the Obama and Trump administrations. I don't think we're near it. I don't think we're close, he said. Just wanted to put that out there. Start this show off. Today, I do want to start with Greg. Greg works in the airline industry, and I am curious as to how that industry, you as an employee in the industry, has been affected by the pandemic. Um, I do know of the bailout that the industry got, what, 25 billion or something like that overall,
Something like that.
something like that. And so yeah, I want to know basically what are your thoughts about it? I want to read to you an article that talks a little bit about it before we get started. This article comes from the New York Times. The Trump administration it's entitled "Crippled Airline Industry to Get 25 Billion Bailout." Part of it as loans. This was actually dated April 14th, 2020. The Trump administration has reached an agreement in principle with major airlines over the terms of a $25 billion bailout to prop up an industry hobbled by the coronavirus pandemic. The Treasury Department said that Alaska Airlines and many would be participating. The program is supposed to help the companies pay their workers and was created as part of the economic stabilization package that the Congress passed last month. The Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, said in a statement that the agreement would help preserve the strategic importance of the airline industry while allowing for appropriate compensation to the taxpayers. The stimulus passed last month largely incorporated the assistance that the industry had sought, including the $25 billion in payroll support and another $25 billion in loans for passenger airlines and more than $10 billion in grants and loans for cargo airlines and aviation contractors. But the aid came with some strings attached, including giving Mr. Mnuchin the authority to take an equity stake in airlines that received the grants. Greg, what's going on with the airline industry? are you seeing a change in the number of people willing to fly? Are you
Oh,
seeing
I mean,
uh,
it's
change in,
very,
yeah,
yeah,
share with
you
us
know,
what you're witnessing, man.
um, it's, people who are willing to fly are virtually non-existent.
Mhm.
I mean, the last trip I flew, we had 3 passengers on an airplane that holds 175
Right.
coming from Phoenix to Chicago. That's
Wow.
three
Wow.
people. The airlines all have said that part of this bailout is contingent on them continuing to fly.
Mhm.
Uh, Southwest has cut their flying by 50%. It's about to go even lower than that. It's probably going to be closer to 70% starting next month in May. And you know, I'm kind of torn on this. The airlines have a lot to offer as far as services to this pandemic. I mean, we can transport, medical personnel, and more importantly, cargo. And you're probably going to see that further down the line when this starts hitting rural areas, areas where hospitals have closed. Some people, they have to drive 200 miles to the nearest hospital. You're going to start seeing the airlines fly into smaller areas with um, personnel, medical equipment, other things. They're a vital part of the chain, for distribution.
Right.
And you're going to see them probably play a bigger part in this, especially once, truck drivers start getting sick.
Mhm.
That's the thing. We cannot disrupt our distribution chain.
Mhm. Okay, okay, I feel you. Well, you know what? I got a few questions specifically I wanted to run by you. Um, Let me ask you, how secure are you?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Um, Still there. There he is. There
As
he is.
employees,
Yeah, well, how secure are you of your continued employment without a vaccine being made available to the general public, given the changes in in tickets being purchased, number of passengers you're seeing on the planes? How confident are you of your employment?
well, in the short term, pretty confident. Um, Now, starting in May, I took a 2-month leave of absence.
Okay.
Um, Southwest, to the word furlough is a bad word to them.
Yeah.
They don't look at these as furloughs; they look at it as a leave of absence. My wife's airline, they've just voluntary have voluntary furloughs
Okay.
for the employees, which she took for 4 months,
Wow.
and hers has already started.
Wow.
What's going to happen is down the line, say August, September, October, when all these airlines, and I have to say, Southwest is a very cash rich airline,
Okay.
but it's going to come to an end sometime. There's already talk of, us taking concessions, um, actual layoffs.
Hmm.
So, and this is now in April. This they're talking further down the line if this doesn't end. But that first story that you read about the testing and all that and what's
Right.
needed. I don't know if you saw a story. There was an article last night that I read that over in South Korea, people who already had this virus
Hmm.
are getting it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I have. Yeah. I have.
So
Yeah.
this talk of immunity and all that is kind of gone right out the window.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Not only that, viruses have a tendency of mutating as they go along.
Yes, they do.
So, this, once it comes around again, it may not be the same virus.
Mhm.
So, the airline industry, any type of economic downturn, the airline industry is the first industry to feel it because people stop flying. Businesses stop sending business people on flights. People stop going on vacation. So it's the first industry to feel it, and it's the last industry to recover from it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Well, I got another question for you. Let me ask you, what changes have you seen made by your employer to help keep you, other employees, and the customer safe?
Well, I will say, I have to admit, Southwest was pretty quick to jump on this. Um, we started lessening our service, and it got to the point where we cut out all service. So on these flights, we have no contact with the customer at all.
Okay.
The only time we have actual interaction with the customers is when they first board the airplane. That's it. There's no service. Now, not every airline has done that, or not every airline was as fast to do that as Southwest. And I can tell you right now, as of about a week and a half ago, there had been a report that over 600 Southwest employees had been infected, that they had already tested positive. Now, these are the ones that have been tested. So over 600 had been tested positive for the virus, and most of them were flight attendants.
Wow. Wow.
And that was a week and a half ago.
Excuse me. That's amazing right there. I mean, what do you, are you seeing employees wearing gloves, masks?
Yeah, we're wearing gloves now. The problem with the masks was we were allowed to wear them, but the problem was, where did you get them from? We had no access to masks.
Good point.
Now I just got an email about 2-3 days ago that the company has found a vendor. They're supplying us with masks. So there'll be each flight should have about 50 masks on board. We need to make those last until we get to the next provisioning station that can refill the mask supply. But up until just a couple of days ago, most of us were flying without masks because we couldn't find them.
Right. Wow, that's amazing, man. That's
right. And there's a big difference between being in a store with these people,
right,
and being on an airplane, because no matter what, you are in a confined space for hours at a time.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, man. That I couldn't imagine. And you way up there, man.
Yeah. Right. Right. There's nowhere to go.
Well, let me ask you also, do you believe that things will go back to normal once these shelter in place orders are lifted, nationwide, while a vaccine is not made available to the general public? Do you see things going back to normal?
Until there's a wide availability of vaccine, whenever a vaccine is finally found for this, people are not going to have the confidence to be able to get on an airplane. They're not going to want to travel anywhere. By the time this is all said and done, people are going to be scared to go anywhere.
Yeah. That's what I'm afraid of. I think it's going to be that way for quite a while.
I think so too.
Even once a vaccine is made, I do think that it's still going to take some time because people are going to be wary of taking the vaccine, and they're going to see what happens to those
right
all out, or
right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if either one of you saw. Well, yesterday they were interviewing some guy down in Virginia because he was out there protesting to open the state up, and he was talking about how he didn't want to be injected with a microchip through this vaccine. It's like, come on. I mean, you're going to have those people. You're going to have these non-vaxxers out there that are just going to continue to spread this thing around because they out of sheer ignorance.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I plan to have a couple on the show. I want for them to
Anti-vax.
explain their position on it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree. Had some discussions, and so it's just a matter of setting up the show and seeing if they're going to really be that brave to share their real feelings about this. So
Right.
we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to get back to you in just a minute, Greg. Sister Janae, want to get to you at this time. Before we get started, I do want to read an article I came across from a woman's website called popsugar.com. I had never been familiar with it until I came across this article. But the name of the article is how can you help teachers during the coronavirus outbreak? A teacher with 20 years experience said the last week has been the hardest of her entire career. Amid school closures and quarantines due to the coronavirus outbreak, Jennifer Catolis, a second grade teacher from California, recently wrote a PSA about what teachers are going through on a daily basis during this incredible, strange time. In a Facebook post, she detailed the new responsibilities teachers have needed to stay on top of, as well as how to help anyone who works as an educator. Check on your teacher friends. Seriously, send them a big virtual hug. In my 20-something years of teaching, this has been the hardest work of my career, she said. I can't speak for all teachers. I know every school, district, and state is handling this pandemic differently. But teachers all over the country are working their butts off. We're on the front lines. Along with being asked to potentially teach children virtually and learning all the technology that comes with it, Jennifer shared how stressful it is to prepare lesson plans months ahead of time and having to consistently sanitize their classrooms. We are cleaning every surface of our classroom: desk, pencils, markers, light switches, and sinks 5 times a day to ensure the health and safety of our students, she wrote. We're transforming areas of our houses to look like mini classrooms, hanging posters. Oh, wait a minute. Did Janae leave us?
Yeah, I think she's gone. I think she
Okay.
dropped out.
There we
There
go.
we
Sorry,
go.
my
Yep.
internet went down and
Okay. Yeah,
I had to get back in. I
I
apologize.
love technology. Uh, we are cleaning every surface of our classroom. This is the paragraph I left off on. Desks, pencils, markers, light switches, and sinks 5 times a day to ensure the health and safety of our students, she wrote. We're transforming the areas of our houses to look like mini classrooms, hanging posters, buying whiteboards, making sure we have all the materials we need to teach from home. We are lugging these materials back and forth to school every single day, 3 months of supplies and lessons to make sure we have everything we need at home just in case we shut down. We're calmly and patiently reminding children 57 times a day not to pick their noses. As an educator, I'm sure you can relate to that. What are some of the things that you're going through before I get to my line of questioning?
One thing I want to say is I could probably tell that this article had been written prior
Yes.
to when schools went home,
Yes.
because I have got to say, when you work with children, you are constantly worried about that sort of thing, because whatever sickness they bring to school, you don't want them to get everybody else sick. And so I'm sure a lot of teachers would agree with that, I have this routine where I come to work and I clean everything. I clean my keyboard, I clean my desks, I clean my door handles. When they sneeze or they do whatever, it's off to the bathroom, to go wash their hands. you have to kind of be on that. So I think when all of this stuff started coming out, the schools were really on top of it. At least my school was. I teach for a charter school and it's part of Academica. And this is down here in Florida, and they're kind of a big charter school chain.
Mhm.
But probably like the first or second week of February, we were already sending notices home to see who had equipment, to see who had internet service, to who could actually, who we needed to give devices to should we not be at school.
Mm.
But what was kind of interesting is I think that it was finally like the first week of March that we were like, okay, we're probably going to go virtual.
Okay.
And so, but it was kind of like, okay, well, they're going to announce it in a day or two. But then it was fast. It was like, oh, okay, well, you guys are out of there. So with Miami, it's one of those places, I don't know if you guys heard on the news, but they were talking about being upset with the governor because they had the beaches open and people were
Right.
coming to spring break. I think it's really, really important for people to know that this couldn't have hit Florida at a worse time for us because it is high season here. And you don't just have spring break people coming here. You have spring break for college and they're going to the beaches. You have spring break for schools, and depending on if you go to parochial school, public school, wherever you go, it's all through March
Right.
that you have people coming here. You have the boat show. You have an art show down here in Miami that is like a few million people come down here for it.
Okay.
It's you have tons and tons of people here. So I think that the schools and everything, even though it didn't seem like politics was so much on it, I think that the superintendent of schools, that they were really like, okay, yeah, we know we're going to go virtual. We're going to put all these kids in the house. And I also think that people don't understand how political schools are,
Mm.
how you're just waiting based like on what side of the fence, whether or not you're Republican or Democrat, to say how things are going to go,
Wow.
like based on who makes the decision.
Okay.
Whoever is the president at the time, every 4 to 8 years, everything gets thrown up for teachers.
Gotcha.
So we end up kind of just hanging on edge, kind of waiting to see, okay, what are they going to do next? It's really kind of interesting because you have to have this, you have to teach them, you're concerned about teaching them, but like I have first and second grade. And I have first and second grade in an area of town where there's 5,000 cases in Miami.
Okay.
And they literally cannot leave their homes
Mhm.
because they have people dying in their neighborhood. And so if you have somebody that's actually in-house dying of COVID here, they're making the whole neighborhood stay home. They're not even letting your kids come out and play.
Wow. Let me ask you this: how are you seeing the students adapting to this new change of having to be schooled at home, and the parents as well?
I think they're kind of rising to the challenge. You
Okay.
know, I really think that they are. I mean, there's like a lot of positive things. You have those kids that may have had a history of truancy or something like that. Those are the kids that are probably difficult to reach.
Mhm.
But I think we made it up to 95% attendance.
Okay.
It What's real interesting is the parents, because at first, we just thought, okay, well, maybe we'll be gone for 2 weeks and we give them a little bit of busy work. But now it's like, well, no, we're probably going to be here for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
And now you see that happening. And I think schools really made their decision here in Florida to stay home because it's so contagious. And you don't want somebody's grandmother to come home because some kid has it, or the kid might live through it, but look at your teacher. You know, I'm almost 50, and what am I going to do? Teach first and second grade with a mask sitting on my face and they can't hear what I'm saying?
Right.
No, it's the odds are it's going to be virtual.
Wow. Okay. Well, got a few questions I wanted to ask you, Janae. Just like with Greg, I want to ask you, how secure are you of continued employment for you and those in your industry without a vaccine being made available to the general public?
Very.
Okay.
I
Why is that?
think so because you kids have to have an education.
Right.
And as long as they're able to go viral for school, schools will accommodate
Mm,
and they will change. Now, I might have to, with every new thing that comes something new that you have to learn. They're going to have some sort of certification, virtual certification, something they can make sure that you are, you know, tech savvy, you know, something like that. Like I said, every 4 to 8 years we get a new certification we have to have. Like I'm a certified teacher. I'm certified in ESOL to teach students that speak other languages. I'm certified in ESE, exceptional education, and now I'd have to do reading. They're going to make you do something, but with schools, I don't know how they're going to manage, you know, having people in the school and having the students in the school. I don't see that happening until they have a vaccine and they actually have like sort of, you know how when you're in school you have certain vaccines you have to have
Right.
in order to be in school.
Right.
And so if it's something that you can get over and over again until you actually have a vaccine, then kids wouldn't be able to go back into school unless they had it. I just
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you, do you believe things will go back to normal once the shelter in place orders are lifted nationwide without a vaccine made available?
Well, if I had to answer specifically to schools,
Yes.
I'd say no, forget it.
Okay.
Like, forget it. No way. They're right now just testing how virtual school will go.
Right. Right.
You know, they're seeing, okay, they have a platform. You know, I bet you within the next couple months, they're going to get off Zoom. You know, everybody and their mother's on Zoom right now because it's one of the only platforms to get on.
Mm,
So they're going to be in the midst of figuring out how to expand their virtual platform that they already have. So I see like maybe the little kids, you know, the very little kids that can't take care of themselves.
mm,
They would probably, this is just a guess, I'm not sure, but I would imagine them opening schools to those kids who are so little that they
mm.
actually need physical care, you know, when their parents are at school, and they would most likely lower the class size considerably,
Okay.
you know, so that you could have distance within the classroom.
Okay.
And honestly, with public school, that's going to be a challenge. That's going to be a big challenge because when Clinton was in office, um, you know, Hillary really did a lot with education and lowering class sizes.
Mhm.
So in that administration, you had that. When Bush came around, uh, you had those high stake tests, and you had no child left behind. But like I said, with everything, it changes. So prior to that, Miami had primary classrooms with 30 plus students in it. Now, if you know anything about primary, that's crazy.
Okay.
That's crazy to take care of that many kids at once and think that you're going to educate them. It's like they really had to do a lot to lower the class size underneath 20. So you're going to have a certified teacher who have whatever qualifications to work with those kids, and they're going to be working with 5 or 6 kids if it's
Wow.
in you know, and they're going to be testing those kids. Like they're going to have it up to the point where this is a test that you could just get in the drugstore
Hmm. Wow.
and you could just find out if you have it, and they're not anywhere close to that.
I got a question, another question. I know many teachers receive benefit packages. Do you see a change to those as well for educators who are now teaching from home?
No, because their benefits suck anyway.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
They don't really give you like they don't give you like they give you the benefits, and your benefits aren't even that much. It's like I have a family of 5. I can't even afford to put my husband on my insurance because it would just be so much for us to pay that every month. And even when I go to the doctor, it's like, oh, well, you have a $3,000 deductible. There's a family $3,000 deductible. You end up with like $10,000 you got to pay yourself
Mhm.
before you get anything. So, no, I don't see that because that would be the break for a lot of teachers. It would be like, okay, well, you don't really pay us like people who have the same degree, who have had to have so much schooling. It's like we have 4 years of college, but we want to make like $3,000 more a year. We got to get a master's. A doctor's might be $6,000 a year. But even if you don't do all of that, you got to get a certification and take a test every other year. It seems like you
Mhm.
have to put in so much into education. It's like ridiculous that somebody else who is a professional who's had just as much as schooling as you who works just as much as you probably makes like 20, $30,000 more a year.
Wow.
So I don't see my job security there, but I will tell you that, you know, like right now, I still technically have the same school day, but my instructional hours have gone down. And so it's like I can see them saying like, okay, well next year your instructional time goes down. So we're gonna lower that pay because you're not in front of those kids as much. That's a concern that I have because
Yeah.
they'll find any reason not to pay or to lower education funds in the state.
Okay. Yeah. I was kind of concerned about the way teachers are being paid now, being in front of students. Would in what ways would that change? Now that you're at home, in what ways would they try to cut back pay or benefits and
That's what I'm saying. I think with the instructional facing, student facing hours,
mm,
I think they will say, okay, well, you were there 6 hours facing them and you have a certain amount of time for planning and it ends up being a total of 8 hours per day. But now you're doing 4 of that. They'll say that, even though you're not. It's going to take a lot of union work. It's going to take a lot of teacher work to say, just because I'm at home and just because I'm not sitting in front of this Zoom camera doesn't mean that I'm not here working. As a matter of fact, my work has gone up
okay.
because now I have to teach parents how to teach kids. Now I have to get all of their homework virtually. And I have to grade that homework and return that homework in real time.
Right.
And so when you have, I think I have about 40 students altogether, and they have 3 or 4 papers a day,
Okay.
you could do the math on how much grading you're going to have to do, and you're going to have to type and give feedback and then do grades. And then if people have what you call IEPs, which are individual education plans for keep kids who may have some sort of learning disability or something like that, you have things by law that you have to uh, adhere to,
Mhm.
even if they're at home. So it's going to be a lot of people trying to say, hey, teachers do a whole lot of work.
Mhm.
Like, I just don't think people understand that the average teacher is probably that's good is probably putting in 65, 70 hours plus of work a week.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Man, hats off to you guys. Hats off to you. Um, at this time, we have a few people in the chat room who had
Yeah, I see.
comments. Yeah, I wanted to go over a few people. One of the chat members, Paula, um, exclaimed, "I don't know if I would take the vaccine. That sounds scary to me." Greg, what are your thoughts on a potential coronavirus vaccine being made to the public? Is that a scary thing for you, or do you understand the sentiment? What are your thoughts about a vaccine being made available?
No, I'm not scared. Um, you know, this is the same type of thing that the United States went through in the 50s with fluoride in the water and stuff like that. I mean, there's still people that they have this idea that fluoride is a part of mind control, and I mean, there's all kinds of conspiracy theories. This is never going to end without a vaccine, and people need to understand this is just the beginning of this. This is going to continue on for quite a while. I mean, if anybody looks back at history, 100 years ago, the Spanish flu lasted for 3 years.
Hmm.
You know, and we don't. Back then they didn't have the type of infrastructure that we have now. This thing is been perfect for the way that our society is nowadays. With people ignoring the shelter at home orders and stuff like this, especially like down in Florida. You have a governor that, you know, up until just recently just pushed back against, what people wanted to do. He didn't want to close businesses. I've got friends down in Florida. My wife's parents were down there. And I mean, we're lucky. We live in Illinois.
Right.
We have a governor who was on this right away.
Yeah.
I mean, if
I
think
actually
about it,
done a good job.
if Chicago, if Governor Pritzker and Chicago's mayor Lightfoot didn't get on this as fast as they did, we would be looking at Chicago as another New York.
Oh yeah. And
agree.
plus, did you see the thing about him today in Forbes magazine
No,
where it was something else. Okay, first the president was on talking about, oh, well, I sent Illinois 300,000 masks, right?
oh right, they
And
were the
so
wrong
everybody's
mask.
thinking it's N95 masks,
Right,
but he gets them and they're just the regular surgical masks. So he's kind of
right,
peeved, like what, And so then they find out that he kind of went around everybody, got gosh, I forgot how many millions of masks that he just got
yes,
from China. And when you were
right,
talking about the planes, cargo planes and needing to
right,
bring medical supplies, it just instantly made me think that because that's basically what he just did. He got
right.
some
And
planes to go there and pick up the stuff and come back. And
those were secret flights.
who in Illinois is going to be upset about that?
Right.
Nobody, you know.
Right.
Florida's like, my kids are like, I want to go back to Chicago. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, right.
He just opened some beaches here.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I know. Beaches are back open. Businesses are back open. I mean, this is just
Up in the
crazy,
north,
man.
he wanted to do that. That's why I have got to say that it is just, it is so important. It is just so important that people really just listen to what's going on. My neighbors here, like, forget the governor, forget Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade's the city of Miami, hit that mayor. He's awesome.
Yes,
He
right.
got it himself, and he's been kicking butt and taking names ever since. I mean, he's getting everybody tested that he can. He's doing a lot. But then you have Miami-Dade County, and that's like the suburbs, for us, for Chicago.
Okay.
And that's like a different thing. And they have a different mayor. And that mayor kind of leans, it's somewhere in the middle of the governor,
Right.
because he's like, oh, well, I think that soon we should open up some things and it should be limited. I'm like, are you kidding me? People in my neighborhood where we live, I live in Kendall. It's like Southwest Miami. And it's probably like about a half an hour southwest of downtown. No, my husband and I went and we got some breakfast from takeout, like some takeout breakfast or something. Every park here, the neighbors, everything, they have shut all that crap down. If you even think you're going to a park, the neighbors are going to tell on you. The neighbors
Right.
are like, go home, don't come out here, go support your business and go back to your house, you know?
Wow.
So
Right.
it's kind of rough that you have to have that imbalance within your own state, that you have to have civilians
Mm.
basically reprimand everybody else
Yeah.
and
Right.
and tell them like, no, I'm not going to get sick for you, you know?
Mhm.
But with the vaccines and stuff, to Paula's thing, I get you, you know, I totally understand how you could be scared of vaccines, like only because it has to be like really, really tested. You know, they're in
Right.
a hurry and I don't
That,
want them
that
to
is true.
be
Right.
like super in a hurry and then, you know, you come up with one eye or something, you know, nobody wants that, you know. You just want them to be able, you want people to be able to shelter in place and do the things that they have to do to keep their family safe and, you know, just get used to being chilling at home for a while until you get it and make sure that it's really like they've really had the time to do it. I just don't think with all of these different states kind of doing what they want, you know, it has to be, to me, it has to be kind of like a uniform thing.
You think it has to
Right.
be done on a federal level?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
Federal order that would uniformly.
what
you
I
know,
think is what I think is that you have a uniform group of governors where most of the governors are in agreement, like most of them.
mhm.
And then you just have a few, just in my mind, that are leaning on the president. But then the president comes out and he's so halfway about it, you
Yeah.
know, like, oh, well, I think I should open the government. Oh, and we should do this and that. And one thing I want to say too, that's really, really important, you know, it's really different when you have um, the president just talking to adults on TV.
Yeah.
You know, you have children.
Yeah.
And as a teacher, you know, you look to that. You look to the president to get on TV and to tell you what's happening and to tell you, you know, what's kind of going on so you can comfort people.
Mhm.
And you don't want to tell them the wrong thing. And honestly, as a teacher, I really felt like we were getting like we had people behind the scenes that just knew better, you know, that were doing things like getting us on virtual, you know, making it just really getting things in order. But then when you looked on TV, it's like, oh, well, this is just the flu and you're going to be okay. And, you know, you hear all that and your kids are seeing that and you don't really know what to tell them because you don't really want to tell them, hey, your president is just all wrong. You know, it's very hard.
I think there comes a point where you just have to level with your kids, though. Like my kids, I mean, they see what's going on. My son, he's actually told his friends who are kind of nonchalant about this, but
Mhm.
he's told them how serious this is. Because his friends were still going out, in groups and stuff like that. My son has barely left the house
Mhm.
since the stay-at-home order,
Yeah.
and I think as responsible parents, we shouldn't shelter our kids, especially older kids that are in their you know tweens or early teens.
Okay.
They need to know what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with for the little ones too. I mean, to a certain degree,
Right.
you know, because you have to tell them, you know, hey, you got to wash your hands. Like, it's crazy, but virtually, I find myself doing that. I find myself saying to them,
Don't
you
pick.
know, be a help around the house.
Right.
Wipe
Right.
off the door handles, wipe
Right.
off whatever it is that you touch, your computer, this and that, you know, giving them like little jobs that they kind of have to do, like just to make sure. Like when you're playing outside, you know, it's the same thing as when you're an adult and you have to keep your distance. Like it's kind of messed up that you have to say all that, but if you don't tell them, what are they going to do?
That's
Right.
right. Right. You have one guy on TV that's saying that there's not much of a problem. It's going to go away, and
Mhm.
it's not going away.
Mhm.
No, it's not. It's just like What I can't understand is the people who do not take it seriously.
Right.
Like, I want to say to them, like, do you not know the country you live in? Do you not know that everything about our country has to do with money?
Right.
And for us to shut everything down, the school down, the educator, the babysitter, the hairdresser, the pool, the everywhere you go, to shut down that ought to tell you. That should have been your thing, just to go running into a house and slam the door shut behind you.
Not
Right.
want any parts of this. I know.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, America, I love America. Like, my husband, like, as you guys, you might not know, Greg, but my husband is from Cuba. And so one of the first things that I told him when he came here is like, there's nothing here for free. Let me just tell you,
Let you know
Right.
right off the bat. All right.
there
off the
is nothing here for free, because people in other countries really think our lives are so easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They think that, hey, I just washed this phone. I know I can get about $50 for this.
Right.
That's just, kind of what they think. And for Americans not to be able to go to work, for people to tell working people that, hey, you better figure out how to stay home with your kids because they're not going to school. That ought to be your clue right there. No matter what, America's not giving up their money. You're not getting away from the IRS up in here.
Right.
It's not
But
going
you
to
know
happen.
what? That's a perfect example, though. You can see what's going on now. This thing is nowhere near being done, and they want to open everything up again.
Yeah.
It's like, because they're more worried about the economy than they are about us.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is that they're torn because they've always loved the economy.
Right.
And now they have to think about us.
Right. Good
because we can't show up to work if 3 million of us are dead.
Well, that's it, and that's the whole
You can't
thing.
make anybody else money.
We are the economy.
That's
The
right.
economy doesn't work without us.
Exactly.
That's
right.
Exactly. Like, get a clue, people.
That's right.
But one thing I say too is that if the average people that are at home working don't realize how needed we are, just how needed we are. Like, every job is so needed. You can't, you got to stand together and stick up for one another in that position, because you can't wait for people who are just fine.
Right.
It's like, wasn't it Muhammad Ali? What did he say? He was like, what am I going to do? Like, just because there's 2 or 3 nice lions outside, I'm going to let all the other lions eat me up, No, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to wait. I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to, do what I keep doing, make my husband strip at the front door. He's not coming in here.
Absolutely.
Not coming in here with any germs.
Right. In my own career, I've had to do the same thing before I come in the house. I got to take it all off, jump immediately into the shower. These are some of the changes in our personal lives that we have to make, because of our jobs. Greg, I wanted to ask you something. Are the prices for airline tickets going down because of
well, okay, so
coming through?
it's funny you asked that, because right in the beginning, when we started cutting service, and you saw the major drop off of revenue, I heard that they were offering tickets for $20.
Yes, yes, they were.
And we were, as employees, we're kind of pissed about that, because it's like, why are you trying to entice people to fly when they should be at home? Why are you enticing people to threaten our lives? But it didn't work. So now, I had a friend of mine who lives in California, and he was telling me he has to fly to Chicago because his business is here, and he was saying it's like $350, $400 one way
One way.
to fly.
One
So
way.
now, one way. So now it's kind of the flip side of that, and now they saw that they weren't going to entice anybody by offering $20 tickets.
Okay.
So now what they're doing is they're going to hit up everybody that really does have to fly, that have no other choices but to
or the
fly,
choice.
and
Yeah.
now they're going to try to get as much money out of them as possible.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
Capitalism, man.
right.
That's
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you who's gonna end up making some money. The gas industry for gasoline.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know how many people are gonna just be taking their cars where they want to go?
Yeah, and gas prices are super low comparatively. Over the
Yeah,
last
and
year.
until they find out people are driving, they're gonna make
Well, yeah, but
they find out.
eventually. Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Yeah, the gas prices. I think I paid $1.67 last week a gallon. That's the lowest I've seen it since I've been able to drive. I think, or close to
Yeah,
it.
right now there's not too many people driving, and it's kind of low.
Right.
But soon people get antsy and they'll figure out how to take their road trip in their Winnebago because that's going to be the only thing that they could do.
You ain't joking, partner.
Right. Yeah, but it's funny. Gas prices were, coming down, and I mean pretty swiftly, and now they've kind of plateaued.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's no demand, so why has it not continued to come down?
Right.
But see, again, it's the economy. Oil prices drive the economy, so they don't want to do more damage than's already been done. So what we're going to have is such a stockpile of oil in this country that it's going to just be ridiculous. They're not even going to know. I would not be surprised down the road if you see like a slowdown or a complete stop of production, because we're just going to have too much. We're not going to have any place to even put it.
Yeah, I could see that.
Shoot, that sounds about right. But shoot.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. If this isn't enough to keep everybody in the house, I don't know what is.
Oh, right.
I don't know what else proof you need.
Right.
Yeah, I'm convinced. I'm good. I'm in the house, man.
Yeah, me too. You know what? I leave the house to go when Andre's come and dropped off our mail. I go out to the box and I take the dogs out. That's about it.
I know. I got my kids, because Miami's hot all the time. So all the pools, everything's closed. I got myself a little pool to put on my patio so they could have something to do,
You got to do what you got to do, man. Well, guys, I want to thank you guys again for attending this show.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Oh, man, very informative. And I'm sure the public greatly appreciate you guys coming on, learning so much about what's happening in your industries. Next week, everybody, plan to have a part 4. Have not decided on what the official topic is going to be about, but there will be a part 4. There will be a part 4. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Janae, Greg, man, love y'all to pieces. Good night, everybody. We're signing off.
Thanks, Andre. Take care.
Bye, everybody. See you later. Take care.
If I can just turn this thing off. Look, I'm still learning the software. There we go.